I can figure out. I believe. Hold on. Okay, I probably should have practiced this before I got on air. I'm failing pretty miserably to figure out. You know what's a good way to cheat? Guys, WE's picking first on red side. Bam, there we go. So they picked red side, Bloxxer, and they're going to lock in the Varus for About's first game with the team.
Okay. The Varus has been something that we saw a lot of last split and has been popping up relatively often so far. As we've been talking about, right, ADCs have a ton of power pumped into them, although it is those hyperscalers that have been really exciting, as well as more of the Essence Reaver builders as well, although that has been nerfed down recently. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not we're just going to be moving fully towards a little bit more of a poke matchup right here, because trying to lane into this Varus can be kind of miserable.
Yeah, certainly can be. And you know what will make it pretty miserable to play Varus? The Ambessa ball delivery system. We see here, swing back here. ZDZ on the Ambessa. It could be Ambessa jungle, actually, so Xiaohao does have that flexibility. We've seen it come across there, but mostly in the top lane. This would be a very aggressive pick for Karis, but we have seen flashes of him. Yeah, it is his pick, Bloxxer, right? And the Akali will come in to try and match that Orianna and give some kill threat, especially on the side lanes, to make Angel be pretty wary about any time he goes to collect farm there.
Absolutely. Into the Orianna matchup, it's one of the safest matchups other than into things like the Akali that can go get you. And Karis, a player we were generally pretty uninspired by last year, really only had pop-off performances on a couple of things, and one of them was this Akali. So I think this is going to be a particularly interesting pick for him right here. And what WE have for themselves right now is just a very standard comp that we're expecting to see quite a lot of at the moment. The Akali, whilst being a little bit spicy, doesn't change things up too much, whereas over on the EDG side, I love that they've got themselves the Yunara right here. That's quite aggressive. Whether or not you're going to be able to get very aggressive during the laning phase into a Varus, you'll have to wait and see what the supports are going to be. But later on into the game, the Yunara can pop off so quickly. Once you get that quest done especially, the Yunara gets this massive power spike and can just take over a game.
JDG fans know this champion well already. Gala getting the pentakill on it. The pentakill prince, as he's been dubbed in his first game for JDG. And if you've been tuning in all day today, 1xN put in a pretty darn good shift on this champion as well. So I'm right there with you, Bloxxer, Yunara. Always fun to watch, especially with the new ultimate ability haste item, Fiend Hunter Bolts, if I'm not mistaken. It's a ludicrous item. I'm sure we'll talk more about it once we actually see the item come across Bloxxer. We'll focus in on the bans, though, right now. Zahen going to be the first one taken away for EDG. What do you want to see a WE target with the rest of the second half draft coming?
I want to see a little bit more for them taken away from the top side, especially if that Ambessa does end up in the top lane. As you said, it could go jungle. Cube has been someone that we've mainly been looking towards these tankier options, but I do wonder if he's going to still look towards something more like the Zahenas they've obviously already banned, or the Cassante that can kind of straddle the line between getting aggressive and also just being more of that tanky option. I do wonder if he potentially also wants to go towards something as aggressive as possible. We've seen the Mundo popping up back and forth as well. I don't know if you particularly want to weave it into this composition, though.
All right, the Alistair going to be the ban thrown away towards Yaoyao to try and I like that ban a lot. There's a lot of peel that you'd like to try and warrant for a Varus that's going to be pretty standstill versus an Ambessa flying in, that Orianna. I like to see the Lulu ban, though. Really good pairing for Yunara. I still will stay. The LPL loves their engaged supports. They still should be the premier pick, but this new season has opened the door for a bit of Enchanter play, so I like to see that Parukia is pulling that Respect Lulu ban, and we'll now get to see what do EDG want to leave up for that B5 counter pick. Well, they're going to keep that flexibility with the Ambessa, either top or jungle likely in place, and give Parukia a champion that he started to make his name in. And I've forgotten everything about casting the LPL Bloxxer. It's like rule number 1 about draft, right? You're not supposed to fall for hovers.
Don't fall for the hover, yeah. I do think you're right that was a good situation to have been able to just pick yourself up your support, but the Cassante, as we just talked about, right, it's one of those champions that something Cube would have liked to have played anyway, would have worked well with their composition. You get to take that away. It works very well alongside an Ambessa and a Yunara because you can go flying in together, and you've also just got another ball delivery system, so I get why they've grabbed that, and I actually do think that taking support as your counter pick really does unlock counter pick in a way that taking it in the other lanes at the moment doesn't particularly. For WE, they obviously still need to grab themselves their top laner and are going to lock in the Renekton. Renekton. The Renekton kind of on a resurgence at the moment, actually. The sort of champion that at the end of last split had really fallen off, but you can get super aggressive in the top lane with it at the moment. Into the Cassante as well is a pretty good matchup overall. And then once you get into these team fights, they just needed some more tankiness, some more front line to go play. I like the Rakan pairing with it. You've got a ton of backline access now, and a lot of space you should be buying for about.
I do like kind of shoring up a different style of crowd control, right? Besides that Jarvan, you put a lot of pressure on these cataclysms from Monki. Now Yaoyao can alleviate some of those with the playmaking. Ooh, but I would love... I'm not going to fall for it. We'll keep talking about Rakan. Rakan Charm, very valuable here. Words that take up time for the timer. That's why... Oh! Parukia, man, you are messing with me too much. All right, I can say it, Bloxxer. This Poppy is an Exodia counter pick at the end of this draft.
Oh yeah, I really, really like the Poppy right now. Obviously, there's a ton of movement abilities that you're going to be able to shut down with that Steadfast Presence, but even beyond that, this composition did really just need that little bit of extra, I'm going to run at you and start this fight off, and you can now pair it up alongside a couple of the other champs with you, but also, it's just that level of tankiness you've got down in the bottom lane. Everything that you were otherwise going to be looking to do as Yaoyao, get involved, try to look for angles to get about an early kill potentially, pretty much immediately gets shut down by the Poppy. You now no longer get to try to play that. You're also going to be dissuading Monki from really wanting to get into your lane. Overall, I think that this, as you said, it's just that pick that stops so much of what WE want to play dead in their tracks.
And as we talk about more, our featured matchup, it's pretty apt that the marksmen in this game are going to play such a pivotal role. Because for about... It's just all of the range here is with this Varus, right? It's an Akali, a melee mid. You've got just so much short range that Yunara can really take advantage of. But this Varus, if it can really get itself ahead, can kind of poke out this Orianna, poke out this Yunara. Because if you don't, the amount of disruption that this EDG comp has put together, Bloxxer, is exactly what a Yunara wants. To get enough space created with a Cassante, with this, Poppy we've talked about. It's going to be hard to get to that Yunara. So I really think, as we wanted to see, our AD carries are really going to be the focal point of how these team fights play out for either team successfully.
Absolutely they are, and I think it's really exciting to see for WE when they've brought in somebody new, and we get to see really how much About and Yaoyao are going to be able to push forwards their lane individually, how much Monki's going to go head down there. We talk so much about Monki, he can have massive impact in this game during the laning phases, and then Jarvan in a team fight can obviously completely swing things with the ulti.
Well, we're on to the Rift for the first time in Group Perseverance. Edward Gaming taking on Team WE here. EDG earning their spot, coming up from Nirvana in Split 3. WE dropping down from that prior Group Ascend, and that's exactly why this Group Perseverance is so fun in Split 1 of the LPL. And we're sped up. People like to call it TikTokified League of Legends. The minions are already up in the waves. We're already trading in the bottom lanes. And we see both of our junglers pathing back towards these bot sides, and that's going to be important to track, Bloxxer, knowing how much more Jarvan can do with those early levels compared to an Mbessa.
Absolutely. We talk often about how a Jarvan should be ganking a couple of times pre-5 minutes, as much as you can pre-level 6, and those ganks will be exceptionally effective, especially down in this bottom lane, but I don't think you're just limited to this bottom lane. Top lane could also be potentially explosive, and when you are on the side that doesn't have the Orianna, that's a great lane to potentially be ganking on towards as well. Also worth noting that early clears have been slowed down a little bit, so as much as the game has overall been sped up, these junglers should be taking a little bit longer to get through that initial little bit of clear, give you a bit more time to push that first wave and get a bit of a bounce going potentially. Both teams should know that their opposition numbers are moving down towards the bottom side.
I like what you talked about the solo lanes for Edward Gaming, because it really feels like both of them kind of want to nullify these early levels, right? Just kind of survive, thrive, farm out. Orianna definitely get the push onto this Akali, but as things progress in this lane, there's always that kill threat that Karis will have, and Cassante is just the nullifying king of top lane, right? So it's good to see Angel has a significant health bonus, as we see an early reset coming across here from Leave, maybe trying to get in a sneaky Cole purchase perhaps, but WE have kind of sniffed this one out and now have complete control over the wave.
Absolutely, like you said, has gone back to grab a Cole, looking to just get that early injection of gold as much as possible. That paired up alongside the quest for the bot laners means that once these come through, you are going to get a massive injection of gold, could really slingshot Leave ahead. You've just got to be very careful not to fall behind during the early laning phase, especially as First Blood is back, giving you extra gold. Giving away that first kill could be really devastating. Not exactly sure that's going to happen here, but ceding control of the wave can also have a pretty big impact.
Karis doing a good job using that Shroud to get maximum efficiency out of the kit. Gets the Electrocute proc, and Angel now in a little bit more trouble than normally expected early for those Orianna levels. I do like that reset, though, for Leave on top of two things. Or, well, really for two things, right, Bloxxer? I think Cole is really good for Yunara, specifically as an AD carry. But also, we talked about how it could be a look towards the bottom lane for that early gank for Monki. And by taking that reset effectively, there's no chance to even try and take a summoner from Leave, and he doesn't actually end up losing any farm. He's still up, so really heads-up play from the only new addition to Edward Gaming in 2026.
Exactly. Like I said, they're really building on what was already a very solid foundation from the end of 2025. And the fact that so far it's looking pretty good. It was a pretty disappointing Demacia Cup for both of these teams. Got knocked out during the second round for both of them. So nobody's really got too much expectation of either of these teams coming into 2026 split proper. And so you've got kind of a blank slate to really be building off of as well. And that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we already saw in our first series how LNG dismantling OMG. I think that's one of your exciting teams from Group Nirvana that can kind of overshoot their placement. And if you talk to the sweet man, Mark Rafa, he would definitely tell you that EDG is a team in Group Perseverance that could overshoot their status. And, well, I tend to agree with them on paper, but there's still a lot of time to talk more about that. As we see our junglers get back out towards their second clears. An early heal there from Parukia, maybe looking for a trade there. He gets the stun on the wall onto About, who oversteps his welcome. Heal traded back by Yaoyao, and Leaves able to get a couple of pretty clutch autos down. One more at that lethal tempo would have maybe found that first blood, but the resolve of About, he doesn't actually end up having to commit that coveted flash.
No, but still, that is going to be the heal coming on out, so that's going to be pretty big going on forwards. And again, you're just ceding some more control over this lane. Monki having to come down just to help catch this wave, make sure you don't lose out too much onto this turret plating. Of course, turret plates have been much changed at this point, and you can see the crystals built up pretty big. If he'd have been able to push through right there, Leaf could have grabbed a big injection of gold. Instead, things just going to taper back out. About going to be able to head back to base, come back to lane, and he's not going to be in too terrible of a spot. Now, people hunting for Karis, but
Shockwave going to land for Angel. Wow. Like that trade. Ult for Flash. That's going to be something that Parukia and Xiaohao can revisit. Monki here, though, has Yaoyao coming up as well. Do we have a classic LPL fight over a Scuttle Crab? Nope, both of our teams feeling a bit wary in their first stage game.
Yeah, neither team really looking to overcommit right here, as much as the Drake would be a nice buff to pick up. Those are another changed part of this new patch. These are a little bit tankier, take a little bit longer to grab, so you're less likely to just go and fling yourself at it in front of your opponents. Instead, it's just going to be a little bit slower. WE going to wait out EDG, and now just going to be started up right here. The support's going to duke it out just a little bit. Don't see this going anywhere. For WE, it's just important to make sure you have enough space for Monki to be able to grab this first Drake. And to be fair, grabbing yourself an early Mountain Drake is really nice.
Yeah, well, it's going to cost him. I mean, that is a, Krugs and Red Buff is going to be traded back here for Xiaohao. At the very least here. Monkey's actually not going to go down camps-wise, so a good trade like you talked about. Ooh. TP, it's a flank, but it is Parukia, utilizing that unsealed spell book. Let's see if he can make things happen. About did retain that flash from last time. He gets pushed back towards Leave, who, in classic AD carry fashion, is much more focused on his wave. It's a cannon wave, Bloxxer, come on. Oh, okay, Leave, wait, he gets Transcendence, he goes level 6, and About has to commit that flash, so maybe Leave was actually thinking a bit smarter than I would have. I would have just hit the wave because I like farming minions. He was doing it to get level 6.
Well, he ends up doing both, right? You get a good chunk of damage off on your opponent. Still, doesn't quite get that full engage. I think Leaf was hoping to be able to get that level 6 just that little bit quicker. Instead, Parukia has had to pull out of that fight before he's able to grab it and then go in. A couple minions quicker towards that level 6 would have likely resulted in at least a couple more things being blown, a bit more of a big engage. Still, About has to blow that flash, so the flash you were talking about, something so pivotal to keeping this Varus safe during the laning phase, now gone. We'll see if that's going to result in any more aggression bot lane from EDG, or if they're now going to bring Xiaohao down to the lane and see if they can get something going that way.
So we can see both Parukia and Yaoyao roaming up towards these grubs in about 10 seconds. Support roaming is a very intriguing strategy now, Bloxxer, with those quests like you talked about. Support's even got to chase towards them, so getting them out of their traditional lane is going to slow down that progress, but you gotta take a lot of priority towards these grubs, especially in a game for Monki, where he's already grabbed that first dragon, now looking for a gank. Good steadfast presence, going to cancel out the flag and drag, so Monki doesn't even get a crack at a Cataclysm on the Angel to force that flash.
This is what we've been talking about. That Steadfast Presence is going to be so annoying for a WE squad, very reliant on their movement abilities to get things going, and every single time you step up, you're going to have to be just waiting on that Steadfast Presence. You're going to have to try to get that out as quickly as possible. About getting forced very far back. He's going to lose out onto a ton of gold here from the turret plating. This was the getting ahead. This was the gold injection that we were talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
he doesn't have flash.
never mind.
Immediate engage from Parukia. Love the steadfast engage there from the EDG support. You hit that public execution, and it becomes a first blood cost for these grubs. The Monki is gobbling up on the top side.
I'm out here worrying about whether or not he's going to be able to catch this wave, and instead, no, just immediately gets one-tapped right there. We talked about it not 2 minutes prior. Not having the flash on this Varus in this game is going to be terrifying.
Oh, Leave. Going to get knocked up. Immediate cleanse, though, on the Chains of Corruption. Still, a little bit of that's a classic Leave maneuver right there. Bloxxer, no matter what team he's playing for, probably shouldn't have been there in the first place, but cleanse is the cost nonetheless.
Now, as much as we were talking about how, a big part of the reason you go and grab Leave is because of what NIP were able to do, the reason NIP didn't go as far as well is because Leave was a very high variance player with some just weird mispositioning errors popping up quite often, and in that situation you do only lose out onto the cleanse and the ulti, things that will come back relatively quickly, but you gotta be careful, especially in this composition where the whole composition of EDG is built around trying to get you into a good spot and then letting you carry through the team fights. If you're stepping up a bit too far as Leave, you're gonna cost your squad dearly.
Speaking on Leave, being in a good spot, even though he doesn't participate in that first blood at all, he reaps the gold rewards here because of those plates. He picks up 2 of them. He has a double, pretty sure that's about 2 waves yes lead, holding on to about 500 gold, the main gold lead that EDG have here, but live by Monki, die by Monki, like we always talk about with this WE team, Bloxxer. First dragon, 3 grubs in tote for him, so it didn't come at a cost for EDG to get Leave ahead.
Absolutely, and the grubs could be really interesting, right? Split pushing is something Riot's been trying to push recently. Haven't really seen that come to fruition too much during the first couple of matchups that we've had here on the LPL, but I'm sure we'll get to see some more interesting strategies at some point. And so now having the grubs for WE, we'll see what they're able to do with it. Cube should be set up pretty well to be able to go split push, try to get himself a little bit of a push early on, especially with having taken the teleport. Once he gets that quest completed and has himself the upgraded version with the extra shielding as well, that's going to be really nice for him coming into these team fights later on.
Able to get himself a pretty nice gold lead, took away those crystallization chunks with the plates. Also going to force ZDZ constantly playing, jockeying these waves under turret, and we're seeing the power of the grubs, right? It's harder for ZZ to clear these waves out. Cube nearly picks up another plate alone off of those. Monki looking in the mid lane, though, does have Angel trapped in the Cataclysm, but Parukia, the steadfast presence, means that Karis couldn't dash in. It's still a flash from Angel, and a Keeper's Verdict knock up. The double shockwave turn from Angel is nice, but Karis, he wants to find this execute kill. He's going to get it and dash himself back out. Monki picks up the kill, but it's WE on the board nonetheless.
There we go. This is what we were talking about with this being one of Karis' signature picks, the thing he looks the best on, able to pick himself up that one. And now you've got yourself a little bit of jockeying around Dragon coming up too. You are down a member right here as EDG, but it feels like they don't care at the moment. They've got the health bar advantages. They're just stepping up, seeing if they can catch a member of WE out. You really don't want to go down by 2 Drakes right here as EDG, so they want to get themselves involved in this one.
Leave knows that Karis is not sporting Flash or Ultimate, so it's the one time any carry feels somewhat comfortable walking up to the Assassin. And as you called out, Xiaohao in the right place at the right time will even up these Drakes. So good plays on both sides, but Bloxxer, I'm liking to see that every one of these decisions does come with a fallback for either side.
Exactly, neither of these teams seem to have just been flinging themselves at their opponents. That's kind of what ruined the matchup previously today for OMG. They just didn't feel like they were thinking through a lot of their decisions, were just flinging themselves into situations that were not good for them. Leave might be doing that right here, gets exhausted and takes a piercing arrow to the face. That's a good chunk of his health bar gone. He's at least going to be able to survive, but that's now, what, the third time that he's used that Transcendence defensively?
Yeah, and it does hold on to the... I actually believe his cleanse is coming up just now. Yaoyao looks like he maybe want to look for a dive. It is still going to be Leave getting his bottom lane quest done first. The only quest not finished is going to be about so far. Do believe he'll get it up here soon. Monki in the area, stealing away some of these scrubs. Xiaohao is nowhere nearby. This is a 2 versus 3. Parukia going to engage onto Monki. Leave has both his summoners, but no ultimate. Still, though, able to clear out the wave well enough that no dive should really manifest. And there will be more time bought for Leave to scale on up here. Parukia's going to get caught over the wall, though. Great find for Monki into the quickness charm and the dunk down Cataclysm. Monki holding all 2 kills for WE, just like we wanted to see.
And now they're going to go and try to fight around this red buff. Good knock-up landing right here. Xiaohao's tanky, but still, he needs to get on out of there. Is at least going to be able to limp back out of his jungle. But I mean, Slayer, look at the gap in CS that's opening up, the gap in kills. Monki is seriously far ahead.
And he's helped prop his other teammates up. Now the only person holding a gold lead for EDG is Leave at this point into the game. But we are dead even in that gold, especially with the plate picked up here for Angel, as it feels like Monki is everywhere on the map.
Absolutely.
And now,
absolutely is.
As we get into the, the 15 minutes past, we might see some more skirmishes. The question I have for you, Bloxxer, is what does Monki need to do to keep pushing this lead? And in my opinion, more importantly, distribute it more towards his teammates, right? Like we talked about, it can't just all be Monki to win these games. I might have to hold that thought from you, Bloxxer, is Cube is staring down a 1 versus 3 dive. Good early Dominus pop. And if he cuts the wave out, I think this is going to fizzle on out. And it should with Yaoyao in the area as well.
Yeah, this should just walk away. EDG realizing that overcommitting in that situation was definitely going to be a bad decision. They don't really lose anything for that on the rest of the map. There isn't some big push that you're missing out on down in the bottom side. So instead, we can turn to how WE can spread the love, how Monki can get involved elsewhere. And I think what he has to do is just spend more time getting alongside his teammates, doing stuff alongside Yaoyao, alongside Karis. Get involved into the backline as much as possible, because again, Leave really is the big part of this matchup and is the person that's furthest ahead right now. You've been able to get a couple of cleanses, flashes, pops of the ulti out of him, but they haven't really full committed to trying to kill Leave yet. I think that's the next step.
I like it. We'll see if W can be successful in that category. They do finally give up their first topside neutral objective, so the Rift Herald is going to be available. Reminder in Season 16 that first turret isn't a feat of strength, obviously, anymore, but it is a lot more valuable gold, just straight gold injection, so see if Xiaohao utilizes that to try and knock down the first turret of the game.
Exactly, it's now 300 gold into your back pocket if you're able to take down that first one. And of course, with turret platings being on every tower, it's also just... Okay, that's pretty aggressive. Does Angel think he's got a 1v1 here? Surely
I don't
not.
know.
No, no, absolutely not.
Eats the newly returned Hextech Gunblade to the face there. It doesn't have enough burst yet, but maybe just a reminder to Karis that as this Orianna scales up, those shockwaves will hurt more and more.
Absolutely, and so you've now got Karis kind of pinned underneath the tower right now. Hex Flash potentially over the wall. No, in the end, it's not actually going to happen. Deciding to just turn around and walk away is Parukia, but they spend a long time up here at WE.
Good keeper's verdict, but he's still trapped in the Cataclysm without the J4 regardless, and Karis is going to get his sweet revenge. That is a 6-level difference, by the way, in that 1 kill for Karis.
And the thing is, you were just spending way too much time up in the top lane right there as EDG, just sticking around and giving plenty for WE to turn around and walk up to the top lane. Now, whilst that is happening, as we were talking about, right, first tower going to be very valuable. You get first tower right here onto the bottom side for EDG, and they're going to be able to grab a huge chunk more turret plating off of the Rift Herald. So the Rift Herald paying dividends right here for EDG, and again, keeping them even in gold despite being down in kills.
This game is as even as it can be in basically every category, unless Karis can get some serious damage on that top lane tier 2. So as we look for more of these big items to come through on both sides, Bloxxer, who do you think benefits with more time in this game? Because it feels pretty EDG favored knowing everything we've talked about for Leaf.
I think so. In this situation where Leaf really is just set up as that main carry, the more items, the more gold he has in his back pocket, just the more he's going to be able to rip through his opponents. But it's not like WE completely get outscaled across the board. There are always options to be able to get involved. I think the critical thing for WE is how much Karis is on pace, or at least ahead of pace, to be able to take over the game. If you fall behind on the Akali, there's very little you can do.
Good flash from Leaf, but again, I feel as if he wasn't this aggressively postured in mid lane, he doesn't have to commit that valuable summoner you've been talking about all game.
Every single time he steps up and he has to lose something. Now, at some point he's going to have to blow everything, and that's going to leave him very vulnerable for the next couple of minutes. Needs to be careful. Mispositioning errors coming through again would be devastating to an EDG that really just needed a step up from the ADC spot to take them to new heights that they really haven't reached in quite a while here in the LPL. Parukia, speaking of mispositioning, he keeps getting caught out again and again.
So, the first time he got caught by Karis, he was level 6 to level 12. That was level 14 cube to level 7 Parukia. I just find it funny that he's down double levels to those two solo lanes. With that momentum, though, WE onto the Dragon. Monki looking to make a statement here. Grab that second one. EDG, are we finally going to break the resolve? Try and look for a fight. Parukia again. Could be Karis pop the steadfast presence and exhaust onto Cube just to hold the Renekton at bay. TP coming from behind. Xiaohao not going to hit the perfect poly execution. It's Sagacity from Yaoyao to get a double charm. Leave immediately cleanses it, transcends, it's easy, pops into the background, and finds himself a freebie AD carry. About doesn't even have a say in this fight. He just gets taken out by the big bad Cassante. EDG in a one-man advantage, losing some of these key ultimates, and they're going to lose their take rapidly as boy do Monki and Cube push out the damage. ZZ has to flash away. Xiaohao trying to hold the front line. Karis goes in the back. Angel executes Monki over the wall with a shockwave. Karis finds a trade back. We're now into a 3-on-3. Perfect execution forward. Lee's trying to kite back desperately, but doesn't have the summoners. Gets knocked up and gets cut down. WE have the final laugh in that long extended skirmish.
But nobody walks away with the Drake in the end. Everybody's now going to have to take a couple of resets, and I think it should be EDG able to at least establish themselves a little bit of control around the area and start this Drake up for themselves. No, not even. It is just going to be the full reset. So Slayer, take some deep breaths because we may well just do this all over again. Of course, we are now 20 minutes into this game. Baron is available. You don't want to be spending too much time down in the bottom side of the map. But WE, they're going to teleport a couple of members in, re-establish themselves some mid-lane priority, and start this Drake up once again.
This is just third Drake of the game, so neither team, I don't want to see any, big throws over this first Hextech Drake, and it does seem for the time being that Edward Gaming are going to have to respect their opponents and give over this objective. Monki just now going to drop the flag, drag on in to start it up. He is spotted on vision. Still got a couple ultimates that are working their way back in, and oh my gosh. All right, LPL Classic, we're TPing back in for this. It's Angel coming through here. ZDZ at bay, trying to hold three people in front.
Oh, no.
Xiaohao gonna dash in, and Karis gets caught by Parukia's steadfast presence. Down goes one key solo member. It's a whiff on the public execution from Xiaohao, but that key pick on Karis is more than enough to finally secure them the third Drake of the game.
Oh, but they're not going to
Angel
stop right here.
Cataclysm, another steadfast presence cuts off the engage from Yaoyao. Angel does have to flash, but the value of this Poppy has been ludicrous in these last couple of minutes.
Absolutely, as you highlighted during the draft phase, this one ability can stop so much of what WE want to do, but still from Karis, that was just really badly played. It is very telegraphed when you land that shuriken, you're about to go in. It makes it very easy to just be able to chuck up that steadfast presence and stop things dead in their tracks. Comes in right here. This is the point where you have to find yourself a couple of big team fights or a couple of big picks. I think this WE composition is very well placed to try pick somebody off before a team fight, whereas WE so far have very much been about just looking for the straight up front to back 5v5, which their composition is good at, but potentially cannot stand up to versus what EDG have.
Well, we're back onto the Rift to see if our theory crafting will come true for either of our sides. We got Baron also as a big time player in any of these fights, right? That's what, with the 20-minute Baron timers, has made the snowball effect of these games feel so refreshing. Also means the EDG one fight can really throw their entire small but hard-working lead out the window. We start to see the vision battle already being waged by Yaoyao, try and get control of that top river.
And everybody was focusing all of their attention down towards the bottom side of the map for that first Hextech Drake, and now you've got to switch all of it back up towards the top side, and Yaoyao has done an excellent job. As you said, there's one flank ward potentially right here for EDG. We'll see if they're going to be able to use that one, because one of the better users of flanks can very much be the Cassante, so if ZDZ is able to use that deeper ward effectively, that could be really good. Angel.
No flash. Ooh, the Shockwave does brunt Karis' Tyra combo first, so Angel's buying time. He should just drop to Karis, just used the whole perfect execution to find that kill, but now he's trapped between two turrets and finds himself Leave, who steps right up into him very precautiously, but he still picks up that first kill, and the rest of the cavalry has arrived, so Monki is now even gonna have to pay the price for that pick onto Angel. The stall game from that Shockwave could prove massive for EDG, because Angel falls, but with Monki off the board as well, is Baron not just the call here for Edward Gaming?
It doesn't feel like EDG have any momentum on towards it. They're in fact going to lose this mid lane tier 1 tower for their troubles. It's just an odd play overall. EDG, though, they are now beginning to establish themselves a little bit, push around the mid lane, and bringing a couple of members over, they could well start up this Baron. Obviously, you have now waited quite a while. It's going to be resets coming on through from the WE members. Yaoyao needs to be careful. This is not your jungle.
He gets chunked out of his dash.
Ooh, ulti.
And has to use the quickness just to get himself out of his own jungle, as you called out. So more and more pressure on WE. They've lost their jungler off to a reset. He's lost camps. A key engage ultimate's off the board. Are EG going to keep pushing the pedal down here? Doesn't seem like it. Again, they're comfortable just playing the scale game, and I respect the resolve, knowing that they feel confident every minute this game goes forward.
Absolutely, they're playing this one out pretty slowly. Interesting as well, because that does now mean we're only a minute and 30 seconds away from that next dragon spawning, and I do wonder how much EDG are really going to be focusing on that dragon. I think Hextech Drake with a Yunara is a disgusting combo as well. It's another thing that works incredibly synergistically with her kit, and so do you just play a little bit more down towards this bottom side of the map and say, hey, you can go for Baron. We don't think you can actually take Baron quickly enough that we have to constantly playing around the top side of the map. We can instead set ourselves up around these drakes that we think are slightly more valuable.
And when talking about Baron and keying into Season 16, some people are happy the Otacon's gone, some sad. Well, the resistance shred of Otacon, Bloxxer's happy. The resistance shred of Otacon has been given back to Baron. So any team that decides to tangle with the big purple worm, it's a lot scarier, kind of like we saw with some of those Otacon plays that, oh boy, did the LPL become very famous about. Famous moment here in our game 1 could be manifesting as Monkeys once get picked up by a big Topo strikes. He has a defensive cataclysm, but the Poppy throws him against his own created wall. Monki goes down, and WE are sputtering without their crystal gem of a jungler. It's the slow from Leave on the Arc of Ruin, trying to chase down a bout, but he can't gap close there with that transcendent form. But Bloxxer this time, Baron just has to be on the menu with no Monki up.
Yeah, I mean, now that the jungler has died and you are all ready, all together, heading straight on over to the Baron is absolutely going to be the right call. But like you said, right, that extra level of shred is there. Karis as well, trying for a flank, is going to get spotted out by Angel. This could now be a fight on multiple fronts. Oh
my god, all right. Oh, there's the Great Keeper's Verdict to chuck Cube out of the pit. TP's coming through to get back in. About a 10-foot TP from Cube, but he's still too late. The Baron is secured. Big time pickup for EDG. Engage comes through for CDZ. Another Tofo strikes. Karis goes into the background to try and go after Angel, but Angel's too tanky for the Ecology to deal with. They still get rid of ZDZ first. Parukia is very low. Karis, this is a massive flank if he can find it onto the critical targets. Angel gets a bit of damage down. Parukia poked out. About, can he find this kill? Flash from Parukia. Chains of Corruption gonna grab Xiaohao. Now Monki finally re-engages to the fight. He's chucked under the turret, but they still get rid of Parukia. Xiaohao goes down as well. Baron comes at a pretty mighty cost for Edward Gaming.
Only one member of EDG gonna walk away with that Baron buff, and they're losing massively on this. You still have to walk back into base as Angel and get a little bit of health back. With turret plates on every single tower currently, you're just shredding straight through these. Those grubs that WE were able to grab so long ago in this match, paying dividends right now.
EDG, do not look at the Baron power play gold. Do not. It's only gonna get worse. Oh my gosh. Let's go back through this,
Bloxxer. We have a look back. Yeah, this one is wild. The teleport in is nuts. I don't know that it's actually any quicker. I'd love to do an actual analysis of how much quicker it is, because the channel feels like it takes half the time it would have taken to have just walked in. The critical thing instead is what Karis does right here. Angel missing out onto that shockwave unlocks Karis. That has been what has been ruining Karis's time playing these fights throughout every other fight we've seen previously, as well as the fact that Parukia is constantly popping that steadfast presence away from Karis, unlocking him to be able to play out the rest of this fight. And I like the restraint right here. Could have gone flying in, decides not to. There's a reason we talk about this as his signature champion.
Picture in picture, though, as we come out of that replay. 4th Dragon of the game. EDG still want to get right back after it. See if they get to Soul Point. Yaoyao trying to set up a flank. Karis has been marked by Xiaohao and Leave, trying to keep that Akali away from the pit. But they're giving up a lot of room doing so. It's now WE that control the Dragon Pit for now. Wave pushing against them. Karis has been caught out by Xiaohao. Leave can't get the autos through the Shroud, though. Karis down to about 40% HP. That is really big for that burst the Akali needs to throw out.
Oh, the poke, though.
Yeah. It's that Varus range we talked about, how valuable it can be. Neither team is willing to give away their battle lines by this point. Dragon down about 6k. It's again the engage on the cube. No strikes from ZDZ.
Shockwave.
Slice and Dice has to get him out. Shockwave does absolutely nothing for Angel. Does that give Monki the confidence to now look to try and go in? Or are they just going to sacrifice the Dragon knowing it's not Soul? And again, some patience showing through for WE. And no kills come from that 5v5 battle line drawn Dragon take.
And this is such a critical fight right here. EDG, you don't get any use out of the Baron, and all of the time you spend playing around that Dragon as well. No Baron minions have hit any towers for EDG. They haven't gotten any use out of this objective, but still, they get themselves onto Soul Point. We've talked about how good the Hextech Soul could be for EDG if they're able to pick it up, but I again like the restraint out of WE. The second that Karis is at half health, there's no point in flinging him into a fight, looking for a perfect execution into the back line. He will die, and instead they just decide, hey, let's walk away, and it looks like it's going to work out for the mid lane tower going to pop as well, and you're now up by a good 1,000 gold for WE, considering that they've lost a couple of fights in a row right here, lost out onto a couple of big objectives. Still being ahead in gold is critical.
But for Edward Gaming, there still is room to win this game with one fight, right? We've seen some pretty sloppy fights, especially from Angel in the last aspect. Leave classic fashion. Back in the LPL, even on a new team, gets caught in that Baron Pit play. If they can just clean things up, you still favor this scaled-up Orianna, this scaled-up Yunara, this full-tank Cassante, even without the gold lead at the 30-minute mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Monki?
Monki.
Oh my gosh, that
Not
was
again.
a very audacious flag and drag, but he still likes the engage. Parukia, the steadfast presence again. ZDZ's the only one trapped in the cataclysm. 3-man keeper's verdict. Punts out all of WE, but still about finds the kill onto Parukia somehow. And Karis and About hold their own, staring down all of EDG.
That golden right there was critical for keeping Karis alive. Monki,
another weird flag
another
drag,
one.
and some shockwave publicly executed by Xiaohao. Monki has been off for these last couple fights, but somehow it's still not costing WE too much, but could be a foreboding warning for the WE jungler going forward.
Absolutely, you really can't afford to be dying in silly situations like this as Monki, because you have Karis and About in such strong positions. That's 4 items completed right now for About. Karis is very close to being able to complete that death cap as well. They're in great spots to be able to carry. They just need a little bit of help out of Monki. This is not the player we expected to be dragging WE down.
Came into this series talking about how it's live by Monki, die by Monki, and right now his deaths have been hurting WE and might hurt Karis here as he potentially gets caught on the sideline. Parukia, though, looking a bit dizzy, trying to pace back and forth away from that fat wall. And Karis gets out, also claiming Angel Zanya's, so
yes,
it's only going to get worse when the Rabadons comes through.
Exactly, that is critical right there, that in a 3v1 situation, Karis still able to get something out of it. We'll have a look back at this one. Monki, that's the sort of flag of drag you do when you're in your base just trying to get to your camps a little bit quicker. That's not something you do towards an unsighted bush, and the fact that you're still able to get anything out of this right here is crazy. About shouldn't be able to step up as far forwards as he was in that fight, but he has that spell shield active. This, though, is egregious. If the first one's bad, the second one is infinitely worse, and unfortunately you just don't have the damage to be able to turn that one back into a kill. Monki needs to switch on right now, because WE are on the verge of being able to win this game.
One fight could really end this game. We're 33 minutes in, death timer's getting long, and Baron is back up, and we're still fighting around that same pesky Fairlight vision into the top river. EDG holding strong. Monki looking for the engage without his flash, still has that clutch Cataclysm. Key thing to look out for, though, is this fight around Baron. Leave should have all summoners, his ult up, so maybe there's a bit more room for him to make mistakes, but it's a public execution onto Monki, the first engage. Great stuff from Parukia. Cataclysm back over for Monki, but it's too little too late. Lee picks up the first kill. Yaoyao nearly gets popped trying to go back in to save him, and we're back to the same story, Bloxxer. Monki is picked off with Baron up. Can EDG take it? No.
No. As of last time, they've realized this is not anywhere as near as easy to do in a 5v4 situation as they would have otherwise hoped. But again, Monki cannot be dying here. The fact that you're not losing out onto these big objectives is good, but you don't want to just be having this even situation right here as W. You want to be pushing the pace of this game forwards a little bit more. You're seeing it increasingly that About just isn't dealing the same amount of damage. His poke, when it doesn't land onto Angel or Leave, when it hits anybody else, it feels like it's not really doing anything. Now, Something does come through, so that should help. Should get a little bit of extra power into About's poke, but he really just needs some time to sit and hit, and he's not getting that with Monki flying in.
Monki just respawns. The Hextech Soul Dragon has spawned right after him. Monki, thanks to the Hex Gates, gets right back up with his team, but EDG have first track towards the pit here, and they're trying to hold strong with these vision lines. It's ZDZ on the front line, trying to see if he can get any Natovo Strike throwbacks. Parukia nearby as well. Dominus popped. 4 cube. Gets chunked out pretty handedly.
Oh, but Leave.
And now EDG can just wait out that ultimate. But as you pointed out, Bloxxer, Leave is poked out very low, and Monki is trying to hunt and find him. Gets the inside track towards the Drake pit. Leave is trying to force a reset here. EDG might just have to wave the white flag on this dragon, but ZDZ wants to go in. Their jugglers in here. Leave transcends to try and look for the fight, but About deletes him. Monki, can he get in to secure the dragon? Yes, he can as well. No soul here for EDG. It's an absolute collapse thanks to Leave's low health bar, ruining any chance at the soul. WE now break the door open on our back and forth game one.
And they can head straight on up towards the Baron. You can send a couple of members back to take a reset, establish yourself at mid lane priority, and you've still got 30-second death timers on both Leave and ZDZ. That's going to make it incredibly difficult for EDG to fight back. As you talked about, Leave being low ruined that team fight, and then it's the disconnect in EDG. Half of them deciding to go in, half of them wanting a reset, and they just do not play out that fight well.
What makes it so weird is we have a ton of rosters in the LPL this year that we're willing to give time for because there's so much changes to their lineups. That's not the case for EDG. This is the team that we praised their cohesion for in Group Nirvana outside of Leave, and now they look completely disjointed these last 10 minutes.
It is one spell rotation. A single spell rotation from About. We just talked about how he'd gotten to that 5-item mark and was in an incredibly strong position. Well, that is what you can do, and Leave, he has to turn around right here and try to fight with his team, but he just gets one-tapped. I mean, those piercing arrows are doing all of the damage needed. And fascinatingly, in that team fight, Karis never even really gets involved. That is a fight won without your mid laner, where the majority of the gold from your team is. So WE, they pick that one up, they grab themselves a dragon, stop it from being sold to EDG, grab themselves a Baron too, and unlike EDG's Baron, theirs is currently netting them positive gold.
It's still a very marginal gold lead for this game. 2,000 at the 36-minute point. Doesn't mean a ton, right? We're getting to the point where a lot of full builds are coming through except for those 7-item 80 carries. So it's all going to come down to execution here. Nonetheless, WE, they want to take more real estate on the map as they look to try and set up a 4-1 towards this bot lane tier 2 turret. The jungle battle being waged though for this vision. Monki always looking for an engage, seeing if he can find an angle onto Angel or Leave, who has just now been spotted towards that brush near the blue side base. For the moment though, EDG holds strong, but they should have to sacrifice this tier 2 soon.
Yeah, that tier 2 takes most of its HP down just to a couple of Baron Empowered minions. Ooh, Chains of Corruption just about going to go wide. That could be critical if we get a big team fight right now. For the minute, WE though showing good restraint, pushing forwards as far as they can, but not over-forcing onto these towers, letting these Baron Empowered cannon minions do the majority of the work for them, because as much as EDG's composition is very fun, it's pretty short-ranged, and that's making clearing out these minions very tricky.
Especially with about just cycling these big piercing arrows over and over again. If Leaf gets hit by one of them, I mean, look at ZDZ. He still gets about 15% of his HP bar chunked out from these piercing arrows, and that's your tank.
They can't clear the wave. They cannot clear the wave.
Okay, Parukia's maybe looking for Cube here. There's a double charm from Yaoyao. Gets the knockup onto Xiaohao. They're going after Parukia as the easy target. About gets the first kill. Xiaohao's down. Gets the GA pop next. And again, it's EDG dysfunction. Leave and CDZ are just now coming out of the base to try and rescue this fight, but it feels too little too late. And there's Karis sweeping in for the big multi-kill. Just like that, WE have rescued themselves from woeful early mistakes and punished EDG for a disjointed late game to game 1.
It's gonna be over right here, right now. Teleport coming back in just to try maybe stop something from happening. ZDZ, though, in the face of all of these Baron Empowered minions, is going to fall. And what a matchup right here from WE, the underdogs coming into this match. And they're able to overcome some interesting play from their superstar jungler.
Yeah, Bloxxer, can you tell it's the first game of the year for these two teams? Because it definitely showed through to me.
Yeah, just a little bit. Very disjointed, couple of weird mistakes back and forth, but it felt like the beginnings of this game really did spoil the end of it for you. Right from the first couple of minutes, we're talking about weird positioning out of Leave. We're talking about how Monki really needs to get involved a little bit more and is maybe not able to fully push the pace of the game forwards enough. That keeps happening, except Monki has his teammates playing well enough to overcome a couple of odd engages and finds a couple of big moments for himself. The steal around Soul is particularly big, but Leave never stops stepping up in situations where he really shouldn't. Doesn't have the fancy feet engaged towards the end to stop himself from losing a couple of those big flashes, those big cooldowns, and it costs his team dearly.
Yeah, and while Leave definitely deserves a lot of the blame for some of these spots in the game, again, there's just EDG, the last, these critical 10 minutes of a game, like 26 minutes to 36 minutes, they just weren't on the same page, even like trying to set up the peel that they kind of preach for this Yunara comp, and nothing really tells the tale more. I'm sure we'll get it when we look back at the highlights. Your support and your jungler are caught outside of your base, and your top laner AD carrier are sitting in Fountain. That's never a recipe to ever win a game, Bloxxer.
No, absolutely not. It's such an odd couple of moments right here from EDG, especially, and we'll keep highlighting this because it's so weird to see. This is 4/5 of the same team that you had last split that looked pretty dang good, and you bring in what should be, for everybody's money, an upgrade at the ADC position, and yet it just doesn't feel like the synergy is there. And it's not just the synergy between Leave and the rest of his team, although that did feel pretty rough, but the whole team feels disjointed in a way you simply would not expect.
And for WE, very loud win here to have, you know, like we talked about coming into this matchup, live by Monki, die by Monki. Felt like WE should have been put 6 feet under a couple of times for Monki's decision making, but I mean, it's a very small sample size, but through one game, the other 4 members of WE kind of made it work every time Monki punted it.
Okay. We have to keep in mind, we have to bear in mind right here, that yes, this was an overall pretty good looking game. However, Karis had good games on one champion all of last split.
That's a good thing.
And it was this one. Yep. It was this Akali. So now, with Fearless going into game number 2, can Karis replicate it? Because I am ready for the Karis redemption arc. I am ready for him to pop off into the mid laner everybody has been hoping that he could turn into. We'll be the first to admit, right, Slayer, that he had a rough last year. 2025 was not kind to Karis, and Karis in turn was not kind to WE. But if he's turning a corner right here, which, hey, this Akali game was pretty fun to watch, that would unlock them. Monki can't do it by himself, and if he actually has some members around him able to push the boat forwards and play alongside him, that's awesome. And it was even beyond that in this game. They made up for his mistakes.
Without a doubt. And as we get into some of these highlights, you're going to see like some worrying trends for EDG going forward. It's going to be Angel with some bad missed shock waves, Leave getting poked out a lot of these fights early. And yeah, this the Baron felt like the beginning of the end, right? For a lot of their playmaking.
You are in such a good spot. You have killed your enemy jungler, and you are walking up to the Baron. And you just lose this fight on two fronts. Karis does a very good job of being able to split this fight out. And that was the main thing for me during this fight. It was the fact that Parukia wasn't able to get those big steadfast presence off. And Angel, after being so good with the shockwave during the early portion of the game, constantly using it to either get his team kills or to get himself out of trouble, missed 3 big shockwaves on the bounce, all 3 of them whiff. And that was the just difference maker right here. The shockwave is such an integral part of the team fight for this composition that when you whiff it 3 times, there's so little that you can do.
That was definitely a story of our featured matchup there from about one of the lesser talked about imports coming in to the splits, but he definitely not only bested Leave in some of these exchanges, but again, another thing I want to praise WE for, this game goes 36.5 minutes, and they're the team we thought got completely outscaled, and they didn't agree with that at all.
No, absolutely not. It was very interesting to see with the bout, the second that he got himself that Serpent's Fang, it felt like he was able to start dealing damage again. He hit this point where he'd kind of scaled alongside, in line with his opposition Poppy and the opposition Cassante, and those champions were tanky enough to have dealt with him and could tank 3-4 arrows to the face in a row, and it really didn't matter. He all of a sudden gets that Serpent's Fang, cutting straight through those shields, and was able to step up and start dealing damage to tanks again, which made the tanks scared, pushed them a little bit further back in their positioning, and then opened up Leave to getting attacked in ways he wasn't previously. Such a pivotal item that comes in just before the last couple of team fights.
And as we wait for our, I guess that's the integral question I'll ask you, Bloxxer here. Oh, I hear our noise.
Okay.
Player of the game, quickly, Bloxxer. Hey, all right.
That's not what I would have said right here.
I didn't think that's who you were going to say.
No.
I think you were going to say the mid laner for WE, if I'm not mistaken.
Which is shocking to me right now. To be fair, there were a couple of weird plays out of Karis, but I'm looking at player of the game in terms of who for WE did I expect to step up and who did step up. Karis would have been bottom of my list, and I thought he was great. About also had a very good game, but I think, really, more than anything, I was particularly excited down in the bottom lane, but not with him. Instead, I thought that overall, Yaoyao had a really good look. He was able to get involved in quite a lot of those fights, and was just, again, buying space and time for Karis and about to do their thing.
Well, it's a good thing for WE that Bloxxer, you're praising their 2 new additions to that bottom lane after a game 1. But it is safe to say we had a rusty start to the group perseverance in our first showing from Team W and EDG. Definitely a game either team could win, but now it's Edward Gaming that have to find a way to win the next 2 games to find their first series win in the LPL Split 1 2026. Or do WE get to bring the brooms out of our last series of the day? We'll find out that and much more after this extended break.